You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News, the show that talks to newsmakers and other important people from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island just like you, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us. As you are probably well aware, former President Donald Trump held a rally right in our own backyard Wednesday, September 18th at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. 3 members of the WHPC on-air staff were able to secure tickets to the event and represent different political views. And we thought it would be a great idea to invite them all in the studio today to give us their feedback and impressions of the event. Please welcome to the show Anaya Isaacs, who is a Democrat, Addison Miller, who is an Independent, and Linda Faulk, who is a Republican. Hello, and welcome to this week's Long Island News.
Well, thanks for having me, Bill.
Thank you for having me.
Hi there.
Thanks for being here, guys. So let's start with Linda, being a Republican. Were you excited to be inside the event?
Yes, I was excited to be at the event. It's kind of like a historical moment because you don't know when a candidate's going to come back to Long Island. So I've been taught, like in history classes, like, oh, if you ever were able to go to a rally, you should go to one. It's an experience. So I wanted to see it for myself.
I'll bet. Well, what was your overall idea? What was your overall opinion of it?
It was a lot, I think. I usually go to like events like wrestling shows, and I also go to concerts. And this was like a whole nother, I think, experience for me. It was very loud, like everyone. Of course, it's going to be loud at a rally, especially with a candidate like Trump, I believe.
He's loud all by himself, so the crowd just kind of helps, you know.
It was like a lot in the beginning, I think. I was online from 8 o'clock in the morning to try to like actually secure a spot because they're like, at first you're like, only 16,000 people are going to go in. And then they upped it to like 20,000. So I was like, okay, like, and I also don't want to be in traffic. So,
yeah. So. We saw on the media, we saw people sitting on the lawn watching it on big screen TVs because they couldn't get in.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, would be the perfect example of what you call political theater. It's a show. Mm-hmm. Definitely a show. You know. Yeah. Well, someone I also have here. I understand at the event you wore a hat that said "Women for Trump."
Yeah.
Right. Question: what are your feelings on Trump and his policies when it comes to women? That would include abortion, access to birth control, and other big issues. Do you know how he feels about those things? Or
yeah. But like, I have no comment.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're allowed. You're allowed. Did he say anything that you did agree with or didn't agree with? I mean, is there...
I kind of feel like I've heard like the stuff that he said before, like...
And he spoke for 90 minutes.
90 minutes?
90 minutes. That's an hour and a half in our language, you know. That's a long time.
Yeah.
To say nothing. If he... I don't know if he did. I didn't see it. So there's really no one thing that you heard him say that you would rally and say, oh, yeah, right. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
the one thing that grabbed me was, and I heard that he had said he was going to restore the SALT deduction. You guys know what that is, right? You can take off of your federal income tax, you can take your state and local taxes when you pay as you go above a certain amount. You can deduct that money back. What he didn't say was he's the one that stopped it. In 2017, he's the one that took away the SALT tax, the SALT ability from. It wasn't just New York; it was a couple of Democratic states, and it's. I don't know that it's a fact, but it certainly seems like retribution for not winning those states.
Yeah.
In the election, and I've lived in New York for many, many, many years. I was born here. So for me, Trump has a track record. So I know things about him and his personality that you're probably not aware of. I don't know, what year were you born?
I was born in 2002,
Wow.
2002.
Yeah, a lot of stuff went down before that, And sometimes, again, we were talking before the show about, the facts and fact checking and, a lot of that stuff never gets brought up. And when you're going to hand a person the keys to the kingdom and say, you're going to drive the bus, we should probably know a little bit more than we do.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Did anything he say change how you might vote?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
But I think with I'm kind of backtracking to the question with women for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went to Catholic school all my life. So I went from nursery school all the way to high school.
Okay.
And I've been always scared to death, with oh, if you do this before marriage, it's a sin. If you're on birth control, it's a sin. If you have an abortion, it's a sin.
Right.
So I'm that's kind of scared me.
Mm-hmm.
Would I be committing air quotes a sin?
Right.
And yeah, that's how I feel. It just scared me to death, especially as a woman trying to grow up. So
yeah.
I think I do have I wouldn't say fully I'm a Republican. I'm kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see myself more as yes, I agree with certain things, but at the same time I also have I don't know what the word is.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Is the word.
Yeah.
I think to me that's probably the most surprising thing to me is people that I've known for a long time, and to come to find out that they don't have any boundaries because all of this behavior is fine. And that stopped me in my tracks. I wondered where the magic wand was that was turning people, kind of weird. But anyway, Anaya, you're a Democrat.
Yes, I'd say I identify more with the progression of things in our society. That falls under Democrat. I don't fully resonate with the effort that the approaches that the Democrats are currently taking.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you have to pick a side.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. We can't vacillate. Can't keep going back and forth. There comes a time when somebody says it's either this or this. And I agree with you about, I've gotten mad at Democrats, and again, I'm not a champion of either side. They all make their mistakes, and they all do the same things. Mm-hmm. Basically, Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin. And they use the same tactics to get. I've told the audience on this show forever that when you get political things in the mail, during campaigns, you're going to get a thing from the Democrats telling you about the Republicans. Throw it in the garbage. You're going to get a thing from Republicans telling you about Democrats. Throw it in the garbage, because you're not going to learn anything from any of that stuff. And the earlier we learn that as people, the better, because then we are the ones deciding what we
want. Right,
not just what somebody's feeding us, Yeah. Addison, you actually had the press pass.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So where did they herd you into a press area?
Well, the way it worked was I was doing the morning show here, and I had to be over at the Coliseum at 9:30 in the morning to preset the equipment. It was just a microphone and a recorder. Right. So, I get online, it's CBS, ABC, Fox News, CNN, Addison with WHPC. And then Newsmax is behind me. I'm like, hi, guys. How you doing?
I love it.
This is great stuff. It's a presidential, it's the middle of the 2024 election. It's a big event. I'm just happy to be here. That's how I took it. Right. I wanted to get the press experience.
Right.
So we get in the building, and I drop off the bag, and I had to go home and get my suit because I wanted to look nice. I came back around 12 o'clock and all suited up, and they don't want the press back into the building until 2:30.
Okay.
So I decided to walk around the Coliseum and just get a feel of what's going on. I don't think a Trump rally is the right word to use. More like the Trump State Fair is the proper verbiage. There was, Zeppelis, food trucks. There was no booze or anything in the parking lot.
Right.
But the merch truck, his fan base is dedicated. It doesn't matter what he says, just his presence, the atmosphere he has around him. He draws a crowd. Mm-hmm. The last time I saw him in person was in 2013. He was getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And that's the last time I saw him. So it's been, how many years? 2013 to 2024.
Yeah, 7 years.
11?
8 years?
Wait,
a minute.
2017 or 2013?
You're right.
2013 to 2024.
Yeah, right.
11 years.
11 years, yeah, right.
Yeah, and he's still...
Thank you for the math.
And I think he's taken a lot of what he learned from the WWE with him on the campaign.
Showmanship.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like when we got in there, like we were, down by the press, and the soundtrack is going, just the soundtrack alone, people are just, they're into it. They're vibing to the music. He knows his audience, so whatever. Everyone's bobbing their heads.
I'm curious, whose music was he playing?
There was Sinatra going on. The Weeknd was playing. Kid Rock, of course.
Martina McBride was also playing at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the music business, so but I'm waiting for. There was just a case that was he wound up having to pay an artist $300,000.
Oh yeah, I saw that
for using
their music
after he was told not to. Constantly told.
I think it was like Celine Dion or something like that.
It might have been. It might have been. They think they mentioned the band. That's what I'm wondering now. When are the cases going to come in of people that know you've been using my songs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Mick Jagger wouldn't care. He just give me 10%. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
But Lee Greenwood lets him use his music because
yes.
This is the first thing I note. I took to know. First thing I noticed, his entrance alone. It's like a wrestling act. I'm a big wrestling fan, so I've been to a gazillion pro wrestling shows. I know what putting on a spectacle is all about.
Right.
So that's what I was taking in. His entry, he walks to the beat. He knows when to stop. When the lyrics kick back in, he starts walking again. He knows what he's doing, where he should be, where the lights are going to go. It really just, he puts on a show.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that can be impressive all by itself.
Yeah.
Just, seeing the, what would you call it? The dance number,
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
Yeah. So what was your impression when you were walking around outside? What did you glean from? I mean, were you able to talk to people or?
Well, I wasn't because I had to preset my equipment at 9:30. I didn't really have a chance to interview people.
Right.
So what I ended up doing was just trying to get a vibe for the feel of it, and a lot of what's the proper word? A lot of Republican people. The typical we're here. I don't know if I could say this. It's like
you can say whatever you want. We're pre-recorded.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just trying to find out the proper verbiage. It was like
it was party time.
It was party time. And like I said, I go to a gazillion wrestling shows. It was like a professional wrestling crowd too.
Right. Do you think it's tailored after that? Like the initial presentation is actually tailored after that?
Yeah. I really think just the way it's catered, the way
it works.
Yeah. Definitely. That's definitely his fan base.
Yeah.
It's probably most of them, 9 times out of 10, are probably wrestling fans.
Right.
Obviously Kid Rock fans and heavy metal fans. But like I said, there was no booze, but I think there was definitely people trying to sneak it in on the line. People were cutting the line, the general admission line, and you were
insane.
Yeah,
really?
It was insane.
I have an anecdote. So my intention of going to this rally was to cover it from a media perspective. However, I am a student journalist, which may have been harder to verify, and I had to go through the guest line to get inside. And then once I got from there, I would meet up with Addison and continue on with my plan. And I think I have an appreciation for that journey inside because I feel like it gave me, being that it was my first rally, it gave me such a perspective of the supporters, really, of who they are, how they interact with each other, and how they interact with me. Right. As an African-American woman, I had so many limiting beliefs about the interactions that I would possibly have as I entered this environment, as I took up space in this environment. And I think I was able to deconstruct a lot of the preconceived notions or things that I've been programmed to believe about that fan base in general. Although I still did not agree with the fan base. I was able to kind of deconstruct some of the things that I felt to be true about going into this space.
Right. The amazing thing to me is, for the most part, no matter who you talk to and where they lay on the political line, most of us want the same things. We want exactly the same things. We want to live in peace. We want to be able to raise families without hassle, all of that stuff.
Simple stuff.
Yeah. And yet the road to those things is what we're arguing about. Right? It's not the things, if I said across the board, you guys don't want to raise families and how, yes, we do. That's exactly what we want. Oh, but I don't think we've taken the time to actually make that something that we think about. Our fellow Americans, they may wear a red hat and but we all want the same things. So what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
One of the things that's happened recently, and it made me stop. And I'm not taking shots at you saying this, but Donald Trump has been followed when he was president, and they were up to I think 30,000 lies. And at a rally, he spoke for 90 minutes, and I don't even know what he said, but somebody's going to sit down and fact check those things, and half of them. And I'm being nice, saying half of them are BS. And yet, he just stands up there and keeps pouring that. There's a reason for that, too. But all the lying is not about you believing the things he said. It's about getting the population to a point where they don't know what to believe. And if you take a computer and you stuff enough information into it, it's eventually going to crash. And that's the same thing that's going to happen to the population if the trend continues.
I agree with that. And I also feel that the era of AI is really going to play a huge hand
100%
in that effort of disinformation and misinformation, and even things actually taking place, but you can kind of shape it to say this didn't actually take place, or this is AI, this is fake news. And it kind of leads to a bit of a mass hysteria of what to believe and what is true. And
that's the end. You've heard the quote before that the people who fail to learn history are doomed to repeat it. Right. So when somebody says that, your impression is that we should learn history so we don't do it again. Right? That's what we're trying to do. But there are quite a few people who are reading history so that we can do it again. And one of the things that gets me is people don't see the comparisons between 1939 Germany and us right now, because it's being done to us again. We all know the history. I was born about 8 years after World War II. That's how old I am, kids. Right? When I went to school, I came back to school when I was in my 50s. So addressing a class of students, to them, the Vietnam War was ancient history.
Yeah.
And to me, I was 20 years old when that happened, or actually a little younger. I went through the draft. I sat in the Commons in high school and waited for my number to be called.
Wow.
I remember those things. You're listening to this week's Long Island News on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and today we're talking to three members of the WHPC staff who were able to attend the Donald Trump rally held on Wednesday, September 18th at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. My guests are Anaya Isaacs, a Democrat, Addison Miller, an Independent, and Linda Faulk, a Republican. So did anybody's mind change with any of the...
No, not necessarily. I'm not even sure if I'm really going to vote this election cycle. I am one of those people. I really do watch politics outside the box, looking in. More, another analogy would be in the nosebleeds.
Right.
Yeah, I really just like the overall look inside. I don't want to really be a part of it.
So you're not running for office anytime soon?
Not nationally. Not nationally.
You left yourself an out, Addison.
Of course. You always have to, especially in Long Island. The possibilities are endless. Yeah. But I will say, I don't think a lot of people care about when he's talking about policies. It's just the same regurgitation we've heard over and over again. And I think even he knows that. So what people were really looking forward to was him just being, the apprentice Trump, what they've seen on TV.
Right.
The whole spectacle. But once again, it's the spectacle. Like the loudest reaction wasn't a policy. It was Kamala, you're fired, you're fired. Loudest roar.
Right.
And one part that made everyone laugh, everyone in the media, everybody, didn't matter what side of the aisle you were. He was talking about White Castle. He goes, my father took us to White Castle. Anyone remember White Castle? 13 cents a burger. Do you remember 12 cents? And it was just, And he didn't finish the story, and everyone was kind of like, "Oh, we want you to kind of finish that. That was actually pretty good," because you got sidetracked. And then when he was telling you to he was like, "Get off your ass and vote, Harry, get your fat ass off the couch, and you're gonna go vote for Trump today, Harry." You couldn't help but
pretty good.
Thank you very much, but you couldn't help but laugh. He puts on the spectacle, and the media. Of course, we're a part of the media. That part came in the rally. And speaking of the media, the dishonest, do-nothing media, we all and then everyone turned around. It felt like we were a heel in wrestling. We're the bad guys.
Right.
Everyone was giving the finger.
More so at CNN because it was they were all singling out mainly CNN.
But they didn't, as from the standing perspective of the audience, they could only see the row of media. They were screaming out in general. And I was closest to the right edge where there were two females giving newscasts, and they were basically heckling them. They were heckling Laura Curran off the railing of the borders
right.
over it. So that was an extreme perspective.
It just gave me I had a mental image of Waldorf and who's the other guy on the Muppets looking over the railing.
Oh, yeah.
Harassing the people on stage. But
that's what it was.
yeah, right. I don't know, what's the atmosphere on campus when you talk to people? Do people talk about politics, or is that like you walk into a class now and that's the one thing nobody wants to say?
I think just from what I've heard, because I'm not a student here anymore,
right.
So I don't really get to walk around and see the old place.
Yeah.
But I think Trump supporters were very scared to talk about their politics or just that they support him or whatever. And for the most part, college campuses have been extremely liberal. I think now people are more open to having the discussion with Trump supporters.
Right.
At least from what I've seen, it's kind of like, just judging on the atmosphere, people are kind of okay with opening up and having that conversation.
That's good. I mean, that makes me feel better because the alternative is to ignore those people, and then they get into an echo chamber, and it gets worse.
No, absolutely.
It just gets worse.
And people say, "Oh, all those people, they're racist, they're horrible people." It's not true.
Right. Yeah. One of the quotes, I don't know if you've ever heard of Bertrand Russell, but he said a quote that when fascism comes to America, the first thing that will happen is that they'll fascinate the fools.
Yeah.
The second thing that'll happen is they'll muzzle the intelligent. So now you have, and we've all seen those examples. You guys were alive then when Dr. Fauci got death threats.
Oh, yeah.
So a guy went to school for 25 years to learn what he learned just so he could fool you into taking a vaccine. That's it in a nutshell, right? You think that this guy went to all this trouble to learn everything he needed to learn to be the guy when it came to healthcare, and you think he did that just to fool you.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So that's where we're at, and it's kind of weird. How do you
navigate that?
And as women, how do you have conversations about things that are specifically big issues for women when we can't even talk about this stuff?
I agree. I think it is extremely difficult to have level-headed conversations with I'd say, I was going to say men, but I think people in general. It's a very sensitive thing. I do find more ease in having conversations with women where we can kind of see eye to eye.
We can identify right away.
And get everything out on the table. And even if we don't agree, just see where our interests lie. But it is difficult. And I'd say specifically in this time, because of the sensitivity and the taboo nature of everything going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, people are petrified.
I was interviewing, I've interviewed a couple of Republican, and I mentioned to one guy that I said, Republicans they're not really afraid of Democrats, but they are afraid of other Republicans.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. I mean, look, when we had a border bill, Trump keeps railing about the border isn't fixed. And people keep forgetting, and I don't know why I don't hear this more often. He was president for 4 years. He was the guy. And he didn't do much. He left a wake of a lot of ruined stuff in his wake, and a lot of dead people. Had he let Fauci be the guy that led the thing about the pandemic, we wouldn't have been burying so many people.
In addition to that, a lot of complaints are made about, in opposition to Kamala, a lot of complaints are made about, well, what she's doing in office now and what Joe Biden has been doing. But some of the things that we are kind of muddling through as a society are remnants of the Trump administration.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Right.
Or even understand how like checks and balances of how the government works.
Well, you know what? This is the example I give most people is go out in the street when you're out of here or go out to ask and the next person you meet who their 2 state senators are. They can't tell you.
Nobody knows.
So that's what we're all up against because, you folks you're in it. Mm-hmm. You're in it. You felt strongly enough to go and see this thing and get your own impressions of what was going on. But you don't seem any happier for the experience.
I wouldn't say. I think it was a culture shock. Who I am in my identity is everything to me. It's how I navigate the world, and I could have never seen myself wanting to be in a space like a Trump rally before wanting to cover it. I won't say the experience. It was in a way invigorating. It was like
the middle of history. It
was kind of breaking the norms of what is expected of someone like me, and I mean that culturally, but also within my own circles and within the life I live. I don't know. I knew going into it that it would shift the way that I looked at the world a little bit. And I think that realization was very heavy for me. And I'm still sorting through it.
Yeah, it'll take right? You have to let it, I guess it's like water flowing over you, you have to really, This show is too short. We need to do another one. Anyway, thank you guys. My guests today have been Anaya Isaacs, a Democrat, Addison Miller, an Independent, and Linda Faulk, a Republican, all three attending the Donald Trump rally at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Again, it was too short. We'll have to, we got to do something, maybe do another show. We could do a special or whatever. I'd really like to talk more with you guys about it.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you for having us. Really, it's very appreciated.
Great impressions, Addison.
Thank you very much.
So the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to get on out of here. I'm Bill McIntyre. Remember, you can listen to us by searching for this week's Long Island News wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're right here on the radio every Friday at 3 p.m. on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.